today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on this book, The Islands of Chaldea by Diana Wynne Jones and completed by Ursala Jones. So this is actually Diana Wynne Jones' last book. She was writing this when she passed away, so she never actually finished the book. Her sister Ursula completed the book for her. She actually has a nice end piece that she talks about taking over the writing of the book and how she was very nervous about it. But then one day she was going over the beginning of the book and inspiration hit her and she felt like her sister was there helping her to finish the book and write it, which I thought was really sweet. And then when she finished it, she felt like she said, okay, I'm done, and went away. So I thought that's a sweet ending for it. The book itself is a solid read. It's satisfying. It's definitely good for middle grade readers. Not that it can't be enjoyed by adult readers. I would say as an adult reader, I enjoyed the book, but I do think it is definitely more targeted toward the middle grade readers and that they would enjoy it the most. So this book tells the story of Aileen, and in the beginning of the book, Aileen is depressed and crying because she believes that she has just failed her test to receive visions and start to become a wise woman. So she's very depressed. She hasn't even told her aunt exactly what happened. Her Aunt Beck is raising her after her mother has passed away and her father is disappeared, and we'll talk more about her father later. So she's currently being raised by her Aunt Beck, and her Aunt Beck is a current wise woman, and Aunt Beck sent her to do her test. So the night before, I believe it's like during the new moon. I don't even think it's during the full moon. I think it's during the new moon. They have to go to this hole or well type thing, sort of like a cave, but all closed in. So they have to go and stay throughout the night there. And it's covered up, so there's no light that can get in. And then they're supposed to allow themselves to receive visions. And whatever they see in the vision is supposed to be their starting point for their wise woman journey, their magical journey. However, when Aileen was in the hole, she was getting scared and she really didn't like being in the hole. So she didn't tell her aunt this, but she believes that she saw a light, and so she thought there was something wrong and she went to follow the light. So she actually left the cave and went outside, and it looked like everything was, I believe, covered in snow and like a glisten over everything, and her aunt's home was dark and she couldn't see the castle. But then she believes that she made a mistake and she goes running back to the cave and she hides there. I'm going to call it a cave. I don't, it's a special grotto thing. She goes back and hides there and pretends like nothing happened. When her aunt comes the next day, and she just tells her she didn't see anything. And she's really depressed because she didn't see anything and she needed to see that vision in order to move forward. But she doesn't have time really to remain depressed about it, because immediately at breakfast the next morning there's a knock on the door and the two are summoned to the castle. The King Kennig, is actually Aileen's cousin. I don't remember how, if it's through her mom and aunt, but whatever. They're cousins. So they go to the castle and the king sets them on a journey because, of course, it's a fantasy book and there has to be an epic quest or journey. So the king is sending Aunt Beck and Aileen, his younger son, Ivar, and their servant, I guess chef apprentice would be more, and also I'm not sure how he says his name. I will just say Ogo. It looks like Ogo. It's OGO. And he's going to send the four of them on this mission where they have to go to Logra, where there has been these magical barricades up. So nobody that lives inside of Logra can go in, and nobody that lives in can go out. I don't remember why exactly they have to go there. I think there was a possibility of either strengthening the barrier or creating a new barrier. I don't remember, but the king is sending them on this secret mission, and so the four of them are going to travel, and they have to essentially travel across all of the islands of Chaldea in order to get there and do their thing. So, of course, upon their journey, they meet other people. They have little mini adventures. Sometimes bad things happen. They are joined by other companions on their journey, and they keep going forward to Logra. And then, of course, once they finally make it to Logra, they have to face the endgame battle. Or whatever. I'm calling it an endgame battle. That's not spoilerific, it's just what I consider what happens in these kind of fantasy stories. You know, there has to be that final culmination of everything that has led up to this point, and then, of course, the resolution of everything, and secrets are revealed, and hidden plots, and then, you know, fixing whatever went wrong and making it right again. And there is actually quite a few hidden secrets, I guess, that get revealed in this, and underlying plots that might have occurred. But I did promise that I would get back to Aileen's dad. So Aileen's dad and this other prince, Prince Alasdair, are actually trapped behind that barrier in Logra because as it was being raised, they got trapped on the other side. I don't remember why they couldn't flee. For whatever reason, they were trapped on that side. So her dad has been over there. So her dad has no idea that her mother is passed away, is no idea that Aileen has been living with Beck. But that is part of what intrigues Aileen to go, because otherwise she feels kind of like out of place, because she doesn't consider herself a wise woman or even a wise woman apprentice, because she failed her little test in her mind. And so she feels out of place, but she knows that her dad was left beyond that barrier. And so she is kind of intrigued enough to want to go and see if he's still alive and beyond the barrier, and if they can reunite. So that inspires her to go on the mission. And it's funny because Ivar, the prince, aka the king's son, is just, he's so spoiled. And he's kind of annoying. Like, immediately he's like spending funds when he doesn't have control over the funds, and, you know, wanting to rent rooms and do whatever. And it's like, Ivar, you're not in control, and they don't even have that much money. And then poor Ogo, who constantly Ivar is talking down to and just being mean about, and they're all young. I don't know if Ivar, I don't know, I'm going to put him probably around the 16 age, because I think the other two are like 12, 13 age. I'm trying to remember how old she says she is in the beginning. Yeah, I'm not going to remember. Anyway, so Ogo and Aileen are a little bit younger, but I'm pretty sure Ivar's probably around 16, 15, 16, I would say. And Ogo and Aileen are a little bit younger. But, man, he's so mean to poor Ogo, who I guess is very large. Like, I mean, he's like tall, and he like just hit his growth spurt and everything, so he feels kind of awkward, and he just doesn't fit in. I feel for that kid. But he's really nice and sweet, and just, yeah, you feel for all the cast of characters, and you meet some funny other characters that come about the journey. There's some animal characters that are charming and endearing. There's not much else I can say about the book without getting into spoilers. I did like the way that it ended. I thought it was satisfying enough. This definitely would not be like my favorite Diana Wynne Jones book. It's not like on the same level as Crestomancy or Howl. But it's still a good read. Like, it's a solid, satisfying read. Like, you read it and you're like, okay, I liked that. It was enjoyable. Of course, I like owning it and getting to read it, since it was the last work that she was working on. Part of me, of course, does wonder is if this is the ending that she would have had in mind, or was there something else that she had intended. But I'm never going to know the answer to that, unless maybe, one day I can ask her in another world. But it was satisfying for me enough to get through this and was pleasant, you know. I don't know if it had that same wit of character that some of her other books had, or most of the other books honestly had, but you know, it was still okay. This one, there were some parts I definitely did not feel were Diana Wynne Jones type ways of writing or talking. There's especially a scene where Aileen is talking with Ogo, and Aileen is just going on about how, like, unworthy she feels, I guess, like she's not pretty enough. And Ogo is like going, no, you are pretty too. And but she's like, well, my hair is blah blah blah. And he's like, I wish you would let your hair go free, it's pretty and curly. Well, my blah 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 is blah, and like this going back and forth. And I don't know, like, it didn't seem really that Diana Wynne Jones, now her at times feeling bad about her appearance or whatever, that kind of is, because Sophie had that kind of thing going where, you know, like Sophie didn't like her reddish blonde hair throughout most of Howl's Moving Castle. Like, she would talk kind of down about herself, but by the end there is that kind of switch over, and I think a lot of that was just Sophie feeling empowered. Whereas this, it's blatantly somebody saying, no, you're good looking and you're this and you're that, and then her just being like, oh, maybe I am. And I don't know, like, that didn't read as true to me for some reason. So I was kind of feeling at that scene, I'm like, I don't think Diana wrote that scene. I feel like the sister wrote that scene. I could be wrong, but it didn't feel as genuine to me as her other books. Like, I kind of wish that there had been more within Aileen, and not like, here's this other character telling you that you're pretty and you have worth and you're powerful. Like, I wish she had more come to realize it on her own, which was more of Sophie's journey, was kind of realizing her ability and her worth on her own as she struggled and persevered. This was kind of like, yeah, the girl is struggling and persevering, but she doesn't actually feel worthy until someone else is telling her that she's worthy. I don't know, like, it didn't vibe as true. And, you know, I don't know, I just think back to some of her other books and I was like, that just doesn't seem like the way that Diana Wynne Jones usually would write her characters. So that one scene just kind of bothered me, just kind of threw me out of the story. But overall, I think it was a satisfying read. I don't have much to complain about. I would definitely say to recommend it to middle grade readers. If you're parents of middle grade readers, pass it on to them. If you're interested in reading more Diana Wynne Jones, you can give it a read. In general, I think more people should be reading Diana Wynne Jones. I just feel a lot of times that Diana Wynne Jones does not get the recognition that she deserves in the fantasy and literary world. I mean, she will get mentioned occasionally, but just on ground level, you don't hear as much recommendations for reading her. And so here I am. I'm going to recommend her because I feel that she is so overlooked in the whole book community, and I always get a thrill when I hear authors recommending her because she really deserves it. I mean, she really does. And so I would say if you have not read Diana Wynne Jones, maybe don't start with this one, but I would say, like, give her books a try. The way that she could write these twisty kind of narratives with these really witty characters, and often with, you know, different looks. They were not all beautiful, perfect characters. They were complex, funny-looking characters. I would say funny, they were normal. You know, these are normal people, sometimes with magical abilities, that did, like, amazing things, and they were so full of wit and life. And that's what I really love about her work. Please read Diana Wynne Jones. Please recommend her to other readers. And please recognize the contribution that she did to the fantasy genre and to literature, because she's very good. And after that whole rant, that's it for this video. I will be back with more book recommendations.